Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. It's that time of the week once again when the weekly challenges go ahead and refresh. In terms of this week, it's a fairly shorter week overall. It's not going to take you too much time to get all of these events done and dusted, and upon completing them, you're going to be earning a decent chunk of change in the form of 100, 200 and 500k in credits, just in bonuses alone. However, before we get into this video, if you wouldn't mind leaving a like, subscribing and turning on those notifications so you don't miss an upload, that'd be fantastic. So an overview of this week. This is September week 2. It will end on the 19th of September 2024 at midnight. So in terms of the events, we have the FR European Challenge 550. That is a 3-lap sprint over at Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. We'll then move over to the Red Bull Ring for the Japanese 4-wheel drive challenge 600 before having a returning special event, this time for the Porsche 356 one make over at Eigen Nordstrand. That for me personally is one of my personal favourite special events. Then we have the World Rally Challenge over at Willow Springs International Raceway on the Big Willow layout. Then finally, to finish off, we have the WTC 700 over at Dragon Trail Gardens Reverse. Now in terms of your rewards this week, it's going to be all about the credits. So for completing one single event, it's 100k, 3 events is 200k, and for all 5 events is going to be 500,000 credits. Your overall completion time should be around about 40 to 45 minutes tops. It's really not that difficult, and a lot of these events don't actually have a PP limit, which is set in stone. So it does mean that you can really abuse those limits if you want to get them done even quicker. Now in terms of event number 1, this is the European FR Challenge 550 over at Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. This is a post-launch event. It came in when the M2 competition got added to the game and was mainly focusing around showing off that vehicle. However, for me, I'm going to use something a little bit different, a bog standard TVR Tuscan, a little bit of a handful, but definitely a great vehicle for this event. So let's dive into it. Now in terms of the event itself, there is going to be 11 AI on track with you, 12 including yourself. Now there is a fierce spread amongst them. You'll find that there is, kind of one car, then the next, and then it's kind of, a tick list event. It's really not set out in a sort of racing way. Every now and again you might get a couple of cars battling on track, but the majority of the time you'll probably just breeze past them and not even notice it. Now in terms of the majority of the vehicles, there's a lot of BMWs and such on track, so just be aware that some of them are pretty quick overall, with a few minor upgrades. That is mainly for the front running vehicles. The majority of the cars you're going to be able to pick off no problem at all, as they just seem to be kind of cruising around. But as you work your way to the front of the grid, that is probably where you're going to have the most trouble, as some of those front runners have pretty heavy upgrades indeed. So once you get up there, just be aware that they're probably going to give you a decent run for your money. Now I had a pretty fantastic battle with this 1989 M3 Sport Evo, which was absolutely drag racing me down the straight. Eventually though, we did manage to get a jump on him, and that was it for first place done and dusted. With one single lap to go, I managed to pull out of a gap of about 4.5 seconds by the time we crossed the line to complete all 3. That is going to be tick number 1 of the week. In terms of the payout, it is 40,000 credits without the clean race bonus, and you're also going to be awarded with 100,000 credits in the form of a credit ticket. Moving on to event number 2 this week. So for event number 2 of the week, we are sticking with these shorter events. This is the Red Bull Ring and the Japanese 4-wheel drive challenge 600. Of course, aiming to JDM vehicles, which are 4-wheel drive and built to around a 600 pp spec. However, I would say the majority of them really ain't aiming that high. Now in terms of the event itself, I went ahead and used a bog standard Nissan GTR Premium from 2017, which quite easily got this job done whilst keeping itself under the 600 limit. Now in terms of the event itself, there is no PP limit, so once again you can really abuse this one if you want to. And in terms of the AI, there are 9 of them, 10 if you include yourself. Now in terms of the actual cars themselves, themselves, once again there's a fair spread of them. Now the Red Bull Ring is a very high speed track, so you really want to be looking at something that can handle those high speed straights to really take advantage of it. And as you can see, the GTR does a pretty decent job, even if the brakes really aren't that good when you have no upgrades on them. However, in terms of the majority of the AI, they will be super simple to pick off. Although they are claiming around about 600 pp for these vehicles, it does seem that the majority of them are nowhere near that. In fact, I would only say there is one car near that, and that would be the front-running Subaru Impreza, which does seem a little bit quicker than the rest of the field. However, you should get this one done and dusted in no time at all. It's only a 3-lap sprint race, and that is going to give us tick number 2 of the week. In terms of the payout for this one, it's 45,000 credits without the clean race bonus. Once again, just running wide, and that did cost me that bonus in the end of the race. Let's move on to event number 3. This is the special event this week. This is Eigen Orsvand with the Porsche 3561 make for both the Speedster and the hardtop. This is one of my personal favourite special events, so it's great to see it return once again. There is no PP limit, and the payout is actually quite decent for this one in a short amount of time. So for me, I went for the hardtop 356. I think most people will probably go for this one, possibly the Speedster. It doesn't really matter, it's basically the same car with the roof chopped off. However, it does seem that the Speedster does tend to have a bit of an easier tune to get it towards that top end of the top speed range. However, you don't really need that here. I went for a full grip build of the 356 and it made short work of the AI. Now, notoriously, the T Barnett car, which is one of these speedster cars, is typically insanely fast in these events. In fact, it's probably one of the typical cheating AIs of Gran Turismo. However, it does seem to be caught up in a lot of traffic, and considering it's not a very high speed track, it did actually make it much easier to get past this time than the previous few events, which have been at, I believe, Laguna Seca and obviously Goodwood, where it was insanely fast. So you can really take advantage of the sort of short twisty layout of Eigen Orsvand here and go for a grip build really over speed. So again, in terms of upgrades, you don't really need to go overboard. However, a lot of these cars are running upgrades from the standard car, so just make sure you do actually have some on it. Now, honestly, the easiest way to get this done and dusted and in the shortest amount of time is just to go for a fully upgraded Porsche, and you could probably rinse and repeat this event all week and make a decent amount of credits with it. Honestly, you're probably looking at around about 5 to 6 minutes completion time with a fully upgraded 356, meaning that you're earning about 120k with the clean race bonus every single 5 to 6 minutes, which really isn't that bad at all. Again, you could probably complete it about 10 times in that time, so of course we get the 120k and the 200k on top of that. Not too bad for a 6-minute event, awarding us 320,000 credits for the first time around. Really not bad, that one. Let's move on to the 4th event, which is the World Rally Challenge. This is where things are going to get a little bit longer and a little bit more complex. This one is at Willow Springs International Raceway on the Big Willow layout. Now again, there is no PP limit here, so you can really abuse those limits. However, just be aware that both fuel usage and tyre wear is turned on. For me, my car of choice was the Honda NSX, so it must be a Group B rally car, and it does seem that ever since the 1.49 physics update, the cars themselves in the Group B category have begun chewing up their tyres like no tomorrow. Again, it's turned up quite high in terms of that tyre wear, so just be aware that they are going to wear quite quickly. I went for the racing mediums and they pretty much dropped off after about 3 to 4 laps, making the car almost undrivable. So I would recommend the hards for this one, and again, just do it on a single stop. The majority of the time you want to run fuel mix free and try and drag it out as much as possible, so you're spending as little time as possible in the pit stop. It's a very quick pit stop here, and you're more than likely gonna have to serve one at some point. Now, in terms of the AI themselves, there's a pretty decent spread between them, especially the front runners here are insanely fast. So again, just be aware of that. However, do take note that they will probably pit about 2 times. I think honestly the majority of the cars in this race will actually pit right at the midpoint and then once again right on the last lap. So you can really build that gap up, but again, they are pretty quick overall. There is also cars on multiple alternate strategies. Some of them are one stoppers on the hard tyres, some of them going very late into the event. As you can see here, both the GTR and the Toyota 86 were going deep into this event before pitting. Don't sweat it too much though, as by the point they probably overtake you on the pit stop, they're about to pit anyway on the next lap, and they'll be going pretty slow at that point, considering the fact that they're running the racing hards. In the end, I managed to take out a 25-second gap, and that is going to give us tick number 4 of the week. A fairly low paying event as well, which is unfortunate. 65,000 credits without that clean race bonus, and of course no extra bonus prize for this one. However, we are going to move quite swiftly into the final event of the week. This is the WTC 700 over at Dragon Trail Gardens Reverse. This is overall a pretty easy 700 event. It is of course one of the day one events, so expect a fairly spread out field where you're going to have to kind of pick them off group by group. In terms of the AI themselves, they are all going to be pitting as well as yourself, so just be aware that tyres and fuel is turned on. For me, I went for the Impreza rally car tuned to 700 pp, which is of course set in stone for this event. So this is the first event of the week where the actual pp limit is in place, so if you do have any of those 700 pp Le Mans grind cars, the majority of them should work fairly well here. Now, with this being a day one event, like I mentioned, there's a fair spread between the cars. So you're going to be kind of going from one group to the next, and so on and so forth, until you eventually get yourself towards the front of the actual pack. Now, in terms of the car I'm using here, once again, I'm using a Group B rally car, so it does seem that the tyre wear on them just isn't as good as it once was. I ran the racing mediums once again, and they started getting chewed up pretty quickly. In fact, by the time I actually got to the end of lap 4, they were pretty much done and dusted. Again, in terms of this event, it does actually have weather enabled, so just monitor that weather radar as well, just to make sure that, you know, you're kind of covering off any rain that may come in. So as you can see, by the time we got to the end of lap 4, my left front tyre is absolutely shredded. It's pretty much undrivable, so it was time for a change in strategy. I went for the racing hards to take me to the end and put in pretty much the entire tank of fuel in, just to ensure that I've got enough fuel to take me all the way to the end on a one-stop pit stop. Again, the majority of the AI will actually pull out a one-stop as well. They'll kind of differ between when they pit. You'll see the range starting at lap 4 onwards to around about lap 6 to lap 7. So I'm going to pit in early, just like one of the other vehicles, as we can see, which was one of the soft runners. I really wouldn't recommend the softs at all, and we did come out towards the rear end of the pack. However, a lap later, that is when the majority of the AI is going to begin pitting in, as well as you also picking them off on track. So you should move through the grid pretty rapidly, even if you're not on the kind of ultimate tyre strategy here. By the end of lap 7, going on to lap 8, the entire field had pitted in, and this did allow me to manage to get the jump and get the job done. In the end, we pulled out over a 25-second gap to the rest of the field, nice and easy. 10 laps completed in around about 15 to 16 minutes, and that is going to give us tick number 5 of the week. In terms of the payout with the clean race bonus, a pretty low 172,000 credits. In terms of the final reward though, it's 500,000 credits for completing all 5 events. So let's open up all of our tickets from today. The first was a 4-star daily marathon. Now, like most 4 stars, the rewards on this were pretty terrible. Honestly, I would have just wanted the Lamborghini to sell it, but in the end I did end up with the Porsche invite. Not really any use to me. However, what is of use to me is all of the credit tickets. So we're going to get 100,000 credits for completing 1 event, 200,000 credits for completing 3 events, and then of course finally is going to be the big one, 500,000 credits for completing all 5 events. So you're going to be earning well over 1 million credits in around about 40 to 45 minutes, maybe even quicker if you begin to abuse that PP limit. Anyway, that is going to be it from me today. A massive thank you to you guys watching at home, and an even bigger thank you to all of my channel members who help support the channel between uploads. If you do want to join, it is massively appreciated. Anyway, have a fantastic beginning to your weekend. Take care guys, peace.